Welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's tutorial, I'm working on layering. I start out this piece, as I always do, wetting both sides of the paper with a spritzer. I just take a water bottle and spritz the back, and then I flip it over and flip the front. I do a basic outline of my layout of the painting, very light lead used on the paper because things show through with watercolor unless you go in very heavy. I start out using a cad yellow light, as this piece is going to be a marsh area with sunset or sunrise scene, however you want to depict it. And so I lay in my light cad yellow light, and then I come in with some ultramarine blue on the light side as well, just again to start out my layout of the piece. I don't want to go in too heavy because I want to keep in mind my layering today, as I always do. And that's the basic concept with watercolor, is layers. I come in with my jaune cream over the cad light, just ever so slightly, not over the whole thing, but just over some, and doing some fan brushing to, move the paint around a little bit. And I'll have to let this dry for a few minutes while I go into some other areas. I come into my foreground with some ultramarine and a little bit of Payne's gray, doing that horizon line, making a couple of gestures of the mountain range in the background. And again, I'm always working back to front and trying to complete as best I can the sky area. Like I have said in the past, I do as best I can to finish the background, but I have to keep in mind the drying time, because if I continue to go into the sky while it's too wet, it will just get messy. So I have to keep that movement going as the paper and the paints dry a little bit. So I might move to the front, maneuver a little bit of paint, and then go back and finish my background. So I've jumped ahead, excuse me, and I pretty much finished my background sky. And now I'm going to come into the foreground. I'm working with a combination of olive green, Hooker's green light, and phthalo yellow green. Those are the three greens I'll be using for this painting. So I come in, again, you see, working, the whole concept of the layout of the piece, and then kind of doing a light wash, coming in with my shadows with straight Payne's gray, and then bringing back in the greens as I go, layering. I'm trying to bring out the shadows and how they're going to be connected to the water as well, but trying to also pay attention to the reflection of the sunrise or sunset in the water, and how I don't want to, in my layering, cover up the cad yellow that I put down, because that is going to be, an important part of the piece when it's completed. And when I'm layering, I try to be aware of what I put down before And as I have said in past videos, trying to use all the paint that I've put down at different stages of my layering so that they show through. I mean, the part of watercolor that's beautiful is, its transparency. You don't want to get too thick with watercolor. You want to show through the different layers of the paint that you've put down. So, keeping that in mind and being cognizant of, gentle strokes and using all the different layers that you've put down are important in watercolor. I feather out as best I can, coming in with a little more on my the sun's reflection on the water, trying to finish up that background. The sky is done, the mountain range is done, and now I'm coming forward just ever so slightly, brought some Payne's gray into that background field, marsh area, and finishing that up, and then going to continue to move forward into the marsh grasses, and just giving slight gestures of the grasses as I go, trying not to be too uniform in how my strokes are. Mixing, there seems to be an olive green with the hooker's green, and just bringing my grass strokes up a little bit to emphasize the shadowing of the grasses, always keeping in mind my light source, which in this case, with the sun rise or sunset, however you want to interpret this, is coming obviously from the sky straight down, so my shadows would be as I'm putting them down there. So that's my source of light, is coming from the back. And this is just ultramarine with a little bit of cobalt blue. And I'm going to be working, kind of feathering the existing Payne's gray that's on there into that blue. And, when you're layering pieces in your painting, you always want to keep in mind, what you put down before, because you don't want to lose all that work you've done through this painting. Every step matters when you're painting, and trying not to get muddy is always an issue, because if you work it too much while you're in the process of putting the layers down, it just becomes a muck of messy mud. So trying to keep it as clean as possible. So bringing in a little bit drier now are my strokes into the grass to emphasize the blades. Coming back in with my cad yellow in that foreground, and bringing in a little cad orange to emphasize that sunset or sunrise reflection on the water. But I'll feather that out so it won't be as pronounced as it is right there. But again, keeping it simple, not trying to overwork the piece. And as I let the piece dry, I continue to go back into where you know, I might have initially thought, oh, that shadow will be done, but as always, when it dries lighter, and I have to go back in and just put subtle touches. Don't fill in the whole gap, just subtle strokes make all the difference in a small piece like this. Gestures, just tiny gestures of grass strokes there. And this is a small piece. This is just a, I think it's a 7 by 7 inch 300-pound watercolor arches paper. And so it doesn't take a lot to work a piece like this. And it's nice to work in smaller pieces, especially when you're trying out new techniques. Going back into the water with the ultramarine blue and just trying to give that shadow effect a little more drama. And that should do it. I hope you've liked this. I hope it's helped a little bit. I hope it encourages you to pick up a paintbrush and some paints and give it a go. I hope to see you in the next painting, and thanks for following along on this journey. You have a wonderful day.